I sure do love waking up at 11:44 in the morning with a headache and no coffee. But don't worry about me. I'll manage. So it occurred to me last night as I was laying in bed that there's a story that I completely forgot to tell y'all. One that I guess fell to the bottom of the barrel. Not to say it's of lower quality or it's stupid. In my opinion, this one's actually kind of fun. Why? Because of course it puts me in a shitty situation yet again. Now, as some of you probably know at this point, I actually moved down to Colorado on 2 separate occasions. I moved there once in 2014, back to Washington for about a month, and then right back down in 2015. Now, of course, both times that I went down, I had my car, my little Corolla. I didn't move down with any trailers or any help or anything like that. I just packed my car as well as I could with all of my important shit, and then I drove across the country. Both times, of course. Now, the second time was totally fine. I was met with very little to no problems whatsoever the entire way there. The first time, however, that luck wasn't exactly there yet. Now, I purchased a 2003 Toyota Corolla. A couple years ago, I'd say at this point. It's a fantastic little car. As far as first cars go, I won the fucking lottery there. Well, I'm starting to veer off track again. So yes, I purchased a Corolla a few years ago, and the first week of owning it was just super duper. Then, I think on the 8th or 9th day of my ownership of the vehicle, it started to, it started to fail a lot. The gas pedal would stop working, etc., etc. As it turns out, there were a few things that were wrong with the car. Luckily, it came with a warranty, so every little repair that I needed done was free. Had to get the fuel pump replaced just after a week of owning the car, which is kind of a big deal. The computer system had to be replaced, and the fuel gauge didn't exactly work correctly. And now here we are, and the fuel pump has been replaced 2 times, the computer system's still fine, and the gas gauge still doesn't work. Anyway, just a few little details about the car. So it had a couple of breakdown points right before I decided to take it on a drive across the country. That alone should have been a pretty large red flag for me. But of course, I brought it in a few times to have it fixed. So I assumed, we're good, it's fixed now. So on the morning of this incredibly lengthy journey, I had my car all packed up and ready to go. I sat in my car and stared at the wheel for about 15 minutes before finally starting it to fucking go. And on my way out, I stopped at the dealership I got the car from, picked up my final license plate. Yes, that's right. I moved down to Colorado the day my official license plates, my final ones, my permanent ones, were in. I showed up down there, I had someone take a look at the tires just to be safe, and the guy came out with my license plates. I'm like, oh, could you help me put them on real quick? He's like, yeah. He's like, so what are you doing today? I'm driving 1,200 miles to Colorado, and he's like, well, shit, you have a fucking good one, sir. And so I set off on my ridiculously lengthy journey. I gotta tell you, I do enjoy really lengthy road trips. I do. I really genuinely do. Even if I say I hate one, I really do enjoy one. I know Bree and I have taken a couple that consist of 1,200 miles from Colorado Springs to Los Angeles. Those ones were not fun just because, well, that's the most boring drive of all fucking time. I think the only one that's more boring is having to go through Kansas. As Jeff can attest to, that place has absolutely nothing to look at. Now, for the first few hundred miles of my journey, everything was hunky-dory, all normal and fun. And the moment I crossed into Montana, I felt a presence. Okay, no, I didn't feel a presence. I crossed through to Montana. I stopped at a goofy tourist trap. I can't remember what it's actually called off the top of my head, but it's a really neat hotel/casino that has like 50,000 silver dollars, like, thrown up on the walls, and they sell all sorts of goofy shit and gifts and whatnot. Oddly enough, I decided it would be fun to buy a fucking katana, so I did. I bought a katana at this store, packed that shit away, and then I continued on. After a little while longer of driving, I decided I needed to pee. Okay, I didn't decide I needed to pee, you know what I mean. It's early, I haven't had my coffee yet, you should know this. I decided to stop at the Gold Creek Rest area in Montana. This is where everything really started to fall apart for me. I had just sat back down in my car after I went to take a pee-pee. I put my key in the ignition, I turned it, and that's when Satan decided to begin laughing at me from down below. The car would not start, no matter what I did. And seeing as how I'm not a car genius, I had no idea how to self-diagnose the car's problem. So I tried the key a few more times, smacked the steering wheel, shouted, "Why, God, why?" Ran around in circles, opened up the hood, stared at the engine like I knew what I was doing, and then inevitably just gave up and sat back down. Luckily, though, the warranty on my car came with free 24-hour roadside assistance. But unfortunately, the term free and included doesn't really mean too much. If you ever get a warranty on your car that includes 24-hour roadside assistance, don't ever, ever, ever try to use it because it's absolute bullshit. Get a AAA membership. It'll save your life someday. Yeah, so I called the roadside assistance guys. Took them like 40 minutes to finally verify that it was me, even though I had all of the required information. And I was then notified that, oh, you're here? Okay, perfect. So the closest guy to you is about 3.5 hours away in Billings. I was like, oh, so I have to wait here for 3+ hours, huh? All right. I was afraid that I was going to have to be towed to the next town over. Luckily, that wasn't the case. I ended up falling asleep in my car for the majority of that time. I decided I would take a nap. I was actually woken up by the guy with his giant tow truck. I was like, hey, well, I guess it wasn't so bad after all. I didn't have to stare at absolutely nothing because this rest stop is in the middle of fucking nowhere. He tested things out for me, took a look, and turns out my battery just died, which I am very, very thankful for. It would have sucked if anything more than that had happened. So it turns out he didn't have to tow me, which I am very, very, very thankful for because, again, the stupid roadside assistance only includes 15 miles of towing for free, and then after that, it's like $5 a fucking mile. So he gave my car a jump, charged me $50, and was on his way. And it was that moment when I realized what I had to do. I actually sped. I think I was going like 20+ miles an hour over the speed limit the entire way there. I sped to Bozeman, Montana, where I spent the night with my old friend Sam Gladiator in his house. Yes, those of you that know about Sam and have been here since I did stuff with Sam, I've been in his house. I've seen his room. I've seen things you don't ever want to see. But I did. I made it there. And the car actually started the following morning, which was great. You know, it was a fun night. We went to see Guardians of the Galaxy. We had a good time. You know, I made it there okay. It was a nice break. But then the following morning, I said my goodbyes. And on my way out of town, I stopped by a battery place to get a new battery. They plopped it in. Real nice folks. And then I headed on south to Colorado Springs on I-25. And I just knew that my luck was going to smack me in the ass one more time. Remember how at the beginning I said that my gas gauge was broken? Well, the car can go about 380, 390 miles on a tank, but I didn't know that yet. So I'm driving through the barrenness and creepiness of Wyoming, where cell phones are just a suggestion. Cell phone towers are practically illegal. Wyoming is a wasteland of, nature. I'm just kidding, I love nature, I absolutely fucking love it. Having a grand old time listening to I Would Walk 500 Miles, you know, it's going great. And then my car starts to sputter out again and lose its acceleration. And I was just fucking done. I was on the side of the highway, broken down again. My spirit was broken again. I thought it was the battery, maybe some other part of the car. I refused to call the roadside assistance number again because fuck those guys. I actually ended up having to call 911 and have them send a highway trooper out to me who then called. I don't know what they're actually called, but it's the guys that show up to car crashes and they put the wrecks on their truck and drive off. He sent one of those guys out to me, which cost more money, but he got there way quicker and he was much nicer, much more efficient. The crappiest part about being stuck in Wyoming was that I couldn't start my car, obviously, so I couldn't charge my phone, which was getting dangerously close to dying. I think I was at 20% when it happened, when I was stuck on the side of the road there. At first, I actually got out of my car and I started jumping and waving my arms at people, hoping somebody would stop. I was seriously jumping like 12 feet in the air, waving my arms around, and eventually someone did stop. And he unfortunately couldn't get through with his cell phone service, so he said, I'm going to drive up to the next town and send someone back here for you. Like I said, eventually the trooper was the one that came through, because the other guy, I think he just ran off. Thanks a lot, citizens. But like I was saying a moment ago, the worst part is having absolutely no cell service out there. The only time I could get cell service and actually hear people through the intense winds going through the plains was when I was standing by the front right tire, bent over at like a 40-degree angle, and facing the mirror, the rear view mirror. Then I could barely get enough signal to call people and speak to them. If I were anywhere else in a different position whatsoever, nothing, nada. And I was there for about 2.5 hours in total on the side of the road before the crew got out to me. And all they did, like this giant truck pulls up, it's huge, and all they did was brought me a gallon of gas so I could make it to the next town over, which was Casper, Wyoming, about 35 miles, 40 miles away from the point I had stopped. Then after that, luckily everything was all good the rest of the way. Incidentally, I think I had like 7-8 more hours of driving after that. I would say that was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life, though. It was a very character-building time of my life. As a matter of fact, in a few short days, I'm going to be flying to Colorado to drive that very same car back up to Spokane, Washington, to hand it back over to my family, and it'll be the last I ever see of that vehicle. And it's probably going to be one of the last times I drive along that very same route. I know these stories always have some kind of stupid point, maybe as a joke sometimes that I make. Half of them seem to have the same point. I couldn't tell you what this one is off the top of my head. It was a very good time. It was a very, very good experience. I'm very glad that I did that. I have a lot to thank that one stupid car for. I have a lot of reasons to complain about it, but if I hadn't gotten that car, I wouldn't have moved to Colorado. My relationship with Bree never would have started. There are a lot of things that would not have happened without that car. I wouldn't be here doing this commentary for 110,000 people. Woohoo! This ended on a weirder note than I thought it was gonna. Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today's story, folks. Wow, this one ran a lot longer than the past ones. Always remember, if you even somewhat enjoyed the video, consider dropping a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, then consider subscribing. And until the next time I have some kind of weird, wacky car breaking down roadside adventure, I'll be seeing you.